Good day, sir. We are the Group 1 and we are here to report the self from the perspective from the various philosopher. Good day. And here we have the three Greek ancient triumvirate. The first one is Plato. One of Plato's most influential contribution to philosophy was his dualist idea of man, that man is divided into two natures. One, the physical flesh, impermanent and evil. Two, the mind, where man is able to grasp unchanging truth. And Socrates, he wanted people to examine their most closely held beliefs. Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. He believed there were universal standards for concepts like truth, justice, and good. And Aristotle, he invented a method for arguing according to rules of logic. He later applied this method to problems in the fields of psychology, physics, and biology. And here
Socrates believed that self belongs to two parts. One is the physical, and the other one is soul. Physical means mortal, which means that our body belongs to the physical realm, whereas the soul is immortal. It means that the soul travels to another dimension. Socrates believed that
Socrates was a Greek philosopher from Athens who is credited as founder of Western philosophy and the first moral philosopher of the Western ethical tradition of thought. Socrates of Athens is among the most famous figures in world history for his contribution to the development of ancient Greek philosophy, which provided the foundation for all of Western philosophy. He is, in fact, known as the father of Western philosophy of his reason. Socrates believed that philosophy should achieve practical results for the greater well-being of society. He attempted to establish an ethical system based on human reason rather than technological doctrine. Socrates pointed out that human choice was motivated by the desire for happiness. Know thyself. Philosophers agree that Self-knowledge is prerequisite to happy and meaningful life. Unexamined life is not worth living. Every man is dualistic, composed of body and soul. Two important aspects of his personhood: body, imperfect and impermanent; soul, perfect in and permanent. Perfect and permanent. Socrates was a first thinker to focus on the full power of reason on human self. Socrates once said, "Who we who we are, who we should be, and who will become. The soul strives for wisdom and perfection, and reason is the soul's tool to achieve an exalted state of life."
Plato. Plato, as a young man, was member of the circle around Socrates. Since the latter wrote nothing, what is known of his characteristic activity of engaging his fellow citizens. In the occasional itinerant celebrity in conversation derives wholly from the writings of others, most notably Plato himself. The works of Plato, commonly referred to as Socratic, represent the sort of thing the historical Socrates was doing. He would change men who supposedly had expertise about some facet of human excellence to give accounts of these other matters, variously of courage, piety, and so on, or at times of the whole of virtue, and they typically fail to maintain their position. Resentment against Socrates grew, leading ultimately to his trial and execute on charges of impiety and corrupting the youth in 399. Plato was profoundly affected by both the life and the death of Socrates. The activity of the older man provided the starting point of Plato philosophizing. Moreover, if Plato's seventh letter is to be believed, its authorship is disputed. The treatment of Socrates by both the oligarchy and the democracy made Plato was wary of entering public life, as someone of his background would normally have done. Thank you.
Plato believed that the soul takes shelter from the body, and the soul is different from our body because soul represents life. Plato believed that the
Plato.
soul Aristotle believed that soul cannot be separated from our body because self is soul and soul is self.
Aristotle is a famous philosopher. One of the many fields to which Aristotle contributed was the field which he called natural philosophy. Aristotle believes that The soul is the essence of the self. He is the student of Plato. First, we have Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, which is Aristotle is the student of Plato. The body and soul are not two separate elements, which Aristotle believed, but the body and soul are a one thing. The soul is simply the form of the body and is not capable of existing without the body. So, Aristotle believed that the body and soul are a one thing and cannot be separated. The soul is that which make the person person. That's the essence of the self. Aristotle suggests that the natural or the rational nature of the self is to lead a good, flourishing, and a fulfilling life. Aristotle said, if you have no body, the soul cannot exist because the soul dies along with the body. So Aristotle believed that if there are no body, there is no soul, or if there is no soul, there is no body. So they cannot be separated because they are one. The soul cannot exist. The soul dies along with the body. You can't separate the body and the soul. What some changes from the soul may give also changes from the body. So what changes happens with the body or with the soul, they kind like give equal changes, which is what happens to the soul happens to the body, and that's happened to the body is happened to the soul. Aristotle also said anything with life has a soul. His discussion about the self centers on the kind of soul possessed by a man and state the three kinds of soul. So Aristotle believes that there are three kinds of soul. First, vegetative soul. So what is a vegetative soul? Vegetative soul includes the physical body that can grow. Second, sentient soul includes the sensual desires, feelings, and emotions. Third is rational soul. Rational soul is what makes a man human. It includes intellect that makes a man know and understand things and reflect his actions. First, we have vegetative soul. So Aristotle means about the vegetative soul is it means we are capable of reproduction and growth. Plants can make reproduction and growth. Animals can reproduce and grow. Also, human can reproduce and grow. Second is sensitive soul or sentient soul. Sentient soul is we can move around and we have feelings, and plants are not capable of this because plants has no feelings. Animals had feelings. Human also is capable because humans had feelings. Rational soul. According to Aristotle, because humans are the only capable of rational soul, because only human can reflect their actions or think before you act. Animals cannot reflect their actions, or plants cannot reflect their actions, only humans. So that is what Aristotle believed.
Aristotle believed that
Saint Augustine, also called as Saint Augustine of Hippo, original Latin name Aurelius Augustinus. Augustine is remarkable for what he did and extraordinary for what he wrote. If none of his written works had survived, he would still have been a figure to be reckoned with. But his stature would have been more nearly that some of his contemporaries, however more than 5 million words of his written survived. Virtually all displayed the strength and sharpness of his mind, in some limitation of range and learning, and some possessing the rare power of attract and hold attention of readers in both his days and ours. His distinctive theological style shaped Latin Christianity in a way surpassed only by Scriptures itself. His work continues to hold contemporary relevance in part because of his membership in a religious group that was dominant in the West in his time and remains so today. Intellectually, Augustine represents the most influential adoption of the ancient Platonic tradition with Christian ideas that ever occurred in the Latin Christian world. Augustine received the Platonic faiths in the past for more limited and diluted way that did many of his Greek-speaking contemporaries, but his writings were widely read and limited through Latin Christendom. That his particular synthesis of Christian, Roman, and Platonic traditions defined the term for much later tradition and debate. Both modern Roman Catholic and Protestant Christianity owe much to Augustine, though in some way each community has at times been embarrassed to own up to allegiance in the face of irreconcilable elements in his true. For example, Augustine has been cited as both a champion of human freedom and article defender of divine presidentation, and his views on sexuality were humane in intent but have often been received as oppressive in effect. Saint Augustine
At age of 16, De Mello entered the Society of Jesus at the Seminary of Vinalaya on the outskirts of Bombay. In 1952, he was sent to Spain to study philosophy in Barcelona. Before undertaking ministry, he then returned to India to study theology at the Nobili College in Pune, and he was ordained to the priesthood in March 1961. After his return to India, he spent several years working in seminaries, and in 1968 he was made rector of the Seminary of Vinalaya. De Mello was first attracted to the Jesuits for their strict discipline. Those who knew him during his earlier years in the order described him as somehow conservative in his theology and reluctant to explore other religions. Some of his peers noted that his experience in Spain led him to broaden his perspective and to lose much of his rigidity. In 1972, he founded the Institute of Pastoral Counseling, later renamed the Sadhana Institute of Pastoral Counseling, in Pune, India. De Mello's first published book, Sadhana, A Way to God, was released in 1978. It outlined a number of spiritual principles and Christian exercises in Eastern form inspired by teachings of Saint Ignatius. It popularized the Nation of Awareness prayer in the United States for his readers and for those who attended his lectures. Sadhana, A Way to God is his best-known work, although The Song of the Bird and Wellsprings have also proven popular. De Mello melded his psychotherapist training with Eastern and Western spiritualities. He wanted people to awaken and become more fully aware to reality around them. De Mello died suddenly in 1987. In 1998, the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith issued a notification regarding his writings. Despite this, De Mello's popularity continues, and his books are still widely sought. Anthony De Mello, also known as Tony De Mello. He was born at September 4, 1931, at Mumbai, India. He was an Indian Jesuit priest and a psychotherapist, a spiritual teacher, writer, and public speaker. De Mello wrote several books on spirituality and hosted numerous spiritual retreats and conferences. He became widely known for his popular speaking and best-selling books on spirituality. Influential first among the Indian Jesuits and other religious, De Mello became well known in the United States by the mid-1970s. He was often invited to present retreats and workshops in America and used often hilarious stories and examples. De Mello was a speaker and wisdom teacher, but much of what he shared has been reconstructed from the notes of those attending his talks. He continues to be known for his storytelling, which drew from the various mystical traditions of both East and West, and for introducing many people in the West to mindfulness-based practices. He is sometimes called awareness prayer. The heart of Anthony De Mello's best-selling spiritual message is awareness, mixing Christian spirituality, Buddhist parables, Hindu breathing exercises, and psychological insight. De Melo's words of hope come together in awareness in grand synthesis.